You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again as we join you from the dark. I'm your host, Ian Kelly, and I am joined by the team of Darragh and Dave. Guys, welcome back once again. This is the second episode of From the Dark, a conspiracy podcast. And before we get into the nuts and bolts of what we're going to be talking about today, let's first of all thank everybody that helped the first episode be such a much bigger success than we expected.
Most definitely.
Most definitely. And obviously we gave it, we put it in your hands, people, and we let you decide what we were going to talk about today. And unanimously, the winner was time travel. So we're going to have some fun with this today. And I promise I will keep the Huey Lewis and the News references to a minimum. If I do start singing, you better take me back in time. Just go with it, guys. Just go with it.
Well, some of the story gets kind of crazy, so it's worthwhile.
It does, and it's cool, guys. How have you guys been since we spoke last? Obviously, a lot more came from it than we expected to get from it. I think is fair.
Oh yeah, like I think the response has been great. The interaction with the poll was super fun, and we also got over our technical issues, so everyone should be able to join us straight away on YouTube and Twitch, and we're even on Periscope and all that kind of stuff now. So, that was the first one. Kind of had a bit of technical hiccups, but now things are a lot better, and hopefully people continue to enjoy it as well. Also, remember, anyone listening, once they chat, we can see it on the screen, so don't be shy, because last time people weren't shy, and that was great. So.
Yeah, that's it. We encourage everybody to get involved in this. This is your show as much as it's their show. This is a show for people that are interested in this kind of thing. It's going to be fun always. I'm sure down the line we'll get on to some, much more serious topics and whatnot. But it's all about having fun as well and being interactive. So we do implore you to smash that bell notification, smash that subscribe button, hit the like as well. I think we had over 100 likes on the last one, didn't we? On a couple of them. So
yeah, the response was really good anyway. So FC just popped in the chat saying, "Hey FC, thanks for joining us."
That's cool. So right, well, let's not kind of beat around the bush. Time travel, such a strange topic / conspiracy theory topic, and it is a theory. It's something that a lot of people believe in. And one thing on this show is that we will never laugh at people that have opinions. So I think the one place that we should probably start is obviously johntitor. Now I never pronounce his name correctly, but I'll call him John Titor with the Irish in me. John Titor was kind of brought time travel to light back on the Art Bell show. I think it was in the late 90s, and it kind of took on a world of its own. Now, I know you two guys are much more well-versed in this subject than me, so I'm kind of going to pass it on to you, Dave, first, and kind of give a bit of not necessarily a backstory, because we have the stuff on screen that people can see, but just in terms of what your interpretation of this was when you first heard about it.
I think I first heard about it on Coast to Coast.
Yeah.
There were some interviews that he did with Art Bell back in the day. Oh, I shouldn't even say interviews initially. Initially, they were faxes.
Faxes, yeah.
That were sent into Coast to Coast claiming to be a time traveler from 2036, and he disappeared for a while, reemerged on some of the forums that they have. It seems that no matter what he got wrong, he just had this Teflon-like characteristic to him where it didn't matter if his prophecies, quote unquote, were true or not, because he could always fall back on the alternate timeline definition of time travel and say, well, yes,
Yeah.
I was here to warn you about Y2K and that the whole world was going to be on fire. That didn't happen, but it didn't happen because I came back and warned you. And it's like, well, damn.
Hi guys, looking to help out the show and also to have a better internet experience, try the Brave browser. Download Brave either from their website or using our referral link, https://brave.com/NER386. That'd really help out the show and we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
In the sense of he was kind of giving some people warnings about certain things, that certain highways were going to blow up, and obviously, as you mentioned and alluded to, that didn't happen. But there was a lot of, and Darragh, I'm sure, can chime in on this. There was a lot of small things that he mentioned that did kind of happen. So some people will chime that down to coincidence. Some believers will put that down to no, he did his civic duty and warn people. And we must also add, just before we get to you there, Darragh, we must also add that during this whole time, apparently he's having meetings and conversations with his family, which is very, very strange because it's very much so Back to the Future stuff here where, hey, by the way, see that little kid in the crib over there? Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
So if you're mom or pops and you're looking at who the hell is this absolute lunatic? So obviously some people would look at it that way, but what do you think, Darragh?
That's kind of the way it was sold, and we did have a bit of a drop there, so don't worry, we're back to normal.
That's okay.
Whenever you see that, they're on to us.
It's all my fault, trust me, guys. My phone is hot.
But it's like I would say the way this was presented is what lends its legitimacy to it. Like it wasn't just a wild conspiracy theory with no credibility. The stuff that John Titor was talking about, it sounded real. And then having some kind of evidence to it. The story wasn't just, oh, this sounds like the ravings of an absolute lunatic.
Yeah.
They were actually able to almost present this in a way that it felt plausible.
It was very organic the way it happened. Definitely, it was very organic because I went back and listened to because I had a file with all the old Art Bell episodes. And I went back and listened to when he was talking about them. Yeah, and it was very organic and very weird. I mean, 1998 doesn't seem like that long ago, but it is like super long ago.
Well, remember the internet back then. The internet was
dial-up.
It was dial-up, and well, in America they had something a little bit better, a bit more advanced, but it was still. It still wasn't like we would think now, But what basically his premise, what he wanted to come back for, is also something that when it was found out, was like, oh, this is really interesting. He wanted to come back for an IBM 5100, which is
That's the number we're thinking of,
yeah.
Did I get the year right there? In 1976, was I right?
1975. You were close.
Damn it! It depends on the month.
You were close. And but why this is so interesting is because he didn't want it for any known reason. Like he wanted it for a specific function that was actually unknown. So it basically could read code. It could read a specific form of, I think it's assembly that it could read, and nobody knew it could do that, even when he was announcing it. So when it was discovered that it can do this, and nobody knew it, that was amazing. That was amazing. Yeah. And then basically, the mission was it needed it. The army sent them back, and his grandfather had one of the people that worked on the machine, and that's how he knew that it could do this. So like that in and of itself was like, all right, this doesn't sound bullshitty. Some of his predictions, however, kind of, well, at the time it was the future, so you only had to be right once with a prediction, right? So he said that
at the time it was the future.
At the time it was the future. Yeah, exactly. So he said that 2008 was going to be the general date when everybody would realize in the world that they thought they were living over. A civil war in the US would start in 2004, and it would be described as a Waco type event every month until it got worse, and consume everything by 2012, and then it would end in 2015 with a very short possibly nuclear World War III. Now, here's the thing.
I
We're
just
kind of
watched- I just watched Waco on Netflix. I'm not sure if that's as devastating as. I mean, as long as Janet Reno's not around, I think we can get through it okay.
But what's funny is, like, you know, maybe was he talking about 2020? Because the world's crazy now at the moment, you know?
Well, it depends. It depends who you listen to, because at the moment, like if you go, you know, I've been researching this stuff so much, and obviously me and Dave have talked about this in depth. You've got all kinds of groups out there that are predicting this and predicting that, you know. And we're not going to mention all the names, but you know, they're obviously some of them very firmly believe in this stuff, and I guess in a lot of ways it probably gives people some hope. Would I be correct in that way of saying it? Maybe it gives people some hope.
Well, I think this kind of added not only hope, but some kind of reassurance, because at this point in
Yeah.
time, you know, as you said, we had proto-internet, it was dial-up, there was the Y2K thing. I think he actually said that Y2K was a big thing, it was going to wipe out loads of things. And it just kind of added some kind of legitimacy to
His
the
claims,
future,
yeah.
to his claims, and to the future. He said that time travel was invented in 2034, and he pointed out that his future was not available for, like, it wasn't available for public use, so he was working for the military, and obviously that was why he was sent back. Now, what I'd have to say from a technical standpoint on this, as I said, this is what you can see his time machine look like.
Yeah, I
was a-
love this bottom picture, the color picture here.
Mm.
Like, I mean, to me, I'm not going to be. Maybe I'll be the bad guy here. But to me, that just looks like
Alright, Scott,
something that I would see in the DeLorean. You know what I mean?
Well, see, that was it. Like, but like, it was supposed to fit in a Dodge. I think it was a Dodge car it could fit in. That was
Dodge Viper, was
Dodge
it?
Viper, something like, yeah, something like that. And that's what it was supposed to sit in. So, you know, very Back to the Future. Not outside the realm possibilities, but
Take me away.
but like some of the stuff that he did talk about was quite uncomfortable. Like, he was saying that
Yes.
you know, there would be mass upheaval. A lot of jobs would be done by technology, and he really hated modern society, and modern society for him would have been what, turn of the century, where people were very lazy and they didn't realize what they have, and basically everything was supposed to go back to an agricultural pivot. So look, you know, we do know now that John Titor is a hoax. It was done by two guys in the US, one which actually was a computer programmer, which makes sense, and this was done by tracking their IP.
Yeah.
So still an interesting story, but here's the thing, and here's where it gets weird. People still believe it.
Yeah, this is what I was going to ask you. I'm glad you kind of went that way, because without kind of segueing to something else, there is certain people that have also believed that those two guys basically hoaxed it and are trying to cash in on the story.
Well, that's it. There
Very
is.
possible.
Well, that's the thing. The people who were
It is
blamed for
possible,
it,
yeah.
the people who were blamed for it, are the people who printed all his faxes and
Sure.
put them into a book which you can buy.
These
So
two guys right here, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So there is an argument saying that, hey, either they did it or they're just profiting on it, and FC pops in, maybe both, possibly. You know, they could have done both. Yeah,
The
it was.
reason I'm saying that is because, as Darragh has, or sorry, as Dave has said as well in private conversations, and it's very true. You do have a lot of people out there that are just sick of the way things are running in the world, that are just fed up and want kind of, I guess, hope would be a word to use. And a lot of these people can be very vulnerable in the sense that, you know, because their hope is so low, and they just want to cling on to anything, that they can kind of jump onto a lot of groups per se, and kind of want to believe in whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's like the old
X-Files.
I want to believe. You know what I mean?
Well, what's it? Joseph Maidney, and fair play to FC. FC knows this, man. He's on the ball here. Joseph Maidney said that in an interview, Larry Haber was not the original John Titor. So it looks like maybe he was. John Maidney was the original one. Also, Pamela Moore spoke to someone who could be one of the original instigators. So we don't know exactly who brought this in. So it's a lot easier to comprehend this, and it turns out it's easy to comprehend for most people without proof. That's very true. I think maybe the reason for that is because we're lied to so much,
Sure,
and
sure.
it's
It's possible, but
yeah.
okay, bear with me for a second. Who's to say that time travel, you have to physically travel with your body? What if you're just transporting your consciousness to a different place in time and taking over the host or something along that line?
Well, see, here's what's interesting about that, right? So John Titor comes from there's different levels of time travel, and I want to get into, and it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that you said that, because right, this is one of the things that blew me away, right? So these are some of the other ones. Two professors see Marie Antoinette at Versailles in 1901, right? This was supposed to be, they were walking along and they saw her during the tour. Now, later on, this was disproved as there was some kind of party going on where they were just dressing up as Marie Antoinette. However, there are some other things here where journalists experienced an air raid 11 years before it occurred. This happened in 1932, and this was before before World War II. But the most and then there's this one here as well that I wanted to bring on here. Where is it? Yes, here we go. So this is the Montauk project. This is very similar to the Philadelphia experiment.
Sure, yeah.
So these are the two ones where stuff just appears out of nowhere and gets stuck, and there's no explanation for it. So Dave, you know what's going on here. This happened around the same time as MK Ultra. It was when loads of weird experiments were happening in the 80s from the 60s. That was really picked up. But this happened in 1943. So 1943. So we heard loads of this stuff happening in the 80s and the 60s. But this is something that happened in the middle of World War II. There's witnesses for it. What do you have to say on this? Like, remember, this wasn't public knowledge until the 80s.
Well, man, it's a tough one.
It is a tough one. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain.
It's very hard to explain because there's eyewitnesses, right? And anytime there's eyewitnesses, especially when there's several eyewitnesses, then you're dealing with, okay, is this a mass hallucination of some sort? Which I don't know how many of those can possibly occur before you start asking questions. This is interesting because the concept of the Philadelphia experiment, just briefly for people who don't know, wasn't initially to make something teleport. They were just working on some sort of stealth technology.
Yeah.
The story goes.
Yeah.
And they essentially magnetized the ship in a certain way. They called it actually, I think it was Project Rainbow was the overarching name for these projects they were trying to do. Makes sense. Rainbow light spectrum, trying to make it so you can't see invisible light or on the radar. And it turns out that they were able to make the ship disappear, supposedly. And all the generals saw it. People on another boat across from it saw it disappear. And then when they turned the machine off that was generating the EMF or whatever, it popped back into existence. Now, the bizarre thing is, during the time that it supposedly was invisible sitting in the dock up on the Northeast, they found that there were sightings of it down in Norfolk. And they couldn't possibly have transversed there and back in time. The distance is too great. So how did this ship end up in one dock, supposedly teleport to another dock, and come back is one question. And the scarier question is, what happened to the people on board? Because once you start reading about that, it's not
still unsolved. Yeah,
still never been brought out. Like, even though it's been debunked as a hoax, they've still never said what happened to the people here. FC says Project Pegasus. That name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I'm not fully aware.
Was over top of it.
Was it on top of it?
It's so hard when you get into these names.
Yeah.
What comes on top of the other, but specifically the Philadelphia experiment. I know
Project Rainbow.
Project Rainbow.
Yeah, I think Pegasus was the overall project in it. But yeah, still that's a great show.
Can I actually just add to that, guys? Because that was actually really interesting. It was just I wrote a couple of notes down there.
Oh yeah, go for it.
When you went on to something previously there, with saying that there was air raids, what was it, 11 months before they actually happened?
10 years.
10 years. Okay, so that's a big difference.
Yeah, big difference. Yeah.
So is this kind of
a skip of time travel? Is any space of time really that?
Oh, dude, listen, I'm just going with Marty. It doesn't matter wherever. I'm just going to the Wild West. No, but one of the things I wanted to kind of add there to it was possibly where some of the concepts and early concepts come from, the Mandela effect, because that sounds very much like that. It's the deja vu
Well,
type of deal. You know what I mean?
yeah, and the Mandela effect is actually kind of scary. We were talking about doing that as a separate one, but I think we can
Oh
probably
yeah, it can be in and of itself, but I think it's worth just mentioning it there based on
almost definitely.
that particular case that you mentioned there. I think it's worth
Well,
bringing that into effect, just purely because a lot of people and it's so big. I mean, we've seen it on major podcasts now. We've seen it on Joe Rogan podcast. We've seen it on Chris Jericho podcast, where he's had people talking about the Mandela effect. So it's not, and that was my first experience with this concept. So I am very, very, very new to it. It was just that when you mentioned that, it sounded something very like that, because it's like that deja vu feeling. That's what people used to say. Deja vu is basically very similar.
Even stronger than that, right there.
Yeah. Well, look, well, here's one for you, right? Time travel as a thing, we know is possible, but not in the way that we think that it is. So, Stephen Hawking even said that it was, and there's done experiments where you can send light. You can make light go back or forward or whatever, and even deep space travel in itself, they have to synchronize their watches to be on Earth time because they're slightly ahead or slightly behind. It's because time is relative, right? We know that how we perceive time isn't really a thing. We just perceive it to be. Like, we perceive it, and you know this yourself. You're at work or whatever, and you're like, "Oh my god, why is this going so fast?" But then you sleep or whatever, and it flies through, or you're doing whatever. So we know that's what happens. Now, what I would say is, and my personal belief on this is, time travel as such, and we know this even from certain things. FC popped in. The multiverse theory is that your consciousness is moving in time, not your physical being. It's more plausible and almost impossible to prove wrong.
That FC there?
That's FC. Yeah.
Okay, FC. I just wanted to say there as well, because I read something up on. He might be able to shed some light in this, because he seems to know what he's talking about.
He knows his stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I fair play to you, FC. Here's a question to you. I was reading up on a lot of stuff in terms about frequencies and how our brainwaves work on frequencies. A lot of people think frequencies just work on FM, AM radio, you know what I mean, or in TV. But our brains work on frequency.
Yeah.
And I read something about the Freemasons, that back in the day they had literature written in how to not control people, but manipulate people, I guess, their thoughts through frequency. One of those thoughts was, and this segue will be worth it, trust me. It was based on, if you look at Hitler, or if you look at the Pope, or if you look at any dictator from back in time, they always were up really high. Do you know what I mean? There was a big pedestal, there was a big podium, and people were always looking up, and they were saying that when your brain, when you're arching your neck up like that, your brain works at a different frequency than it does when you're normally walking around.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if there's any validity in this or truth. However, it sounded really kind of cool. And I was kind of going, is this true? Is this frequency deal true? Because I know you mentioned earlier frequencies, and I just kind of wrote it down.
Well, look, on that point, it's got to go with, and I was even looking up Steins Gate. I don't know if you've seen that, but Steins Gate's a pretty good anime where I'd recommend. It's all about time travel.
Oh, is that what that page was?
That's what that was.
If you're
yeah.
Listening, that's why I chose.
Dave looked like he was laughing when I mentioned frequencies. I hope
yeah. No.
I got on the frequencies.
No. I was researching Steins Gate because I never actually seen it, but people always said that I love it, and now it makes sense. But here's the thing. When I was researching this, and I was looking, the plausibility of time travel, right?
Sure.
I would say it's more, and even some of the rules, some of the movies that we've seen and stuff like that, even talk about Endgame, they don't go back to their time. They go back to a time that mirrors something that happened. So instead of going here, they go down and here. And there's another great movie called Primer. Primer is the name. Yeah, it is. And,
I know the one.
It's fantastic, and it kind of shows how this would happen, where it's multiple branching timelines, and this is it. So the multiverse to me makes more sense than anything else. it's the one thing where I'm like, yeah, that thing is real, and it's purely because it's science, right? For every reaction, we know there's an opposite and equal reaction. So purely by physics, anything we do, something opposite's going to be done purely to set itself off. And if that's happening in a macro scale, well, then it's going to be different world, right? So the basic level of time travel would be, you just say, Ian, you go back to last week and then make a change. Our timeline would still keep going when you would come back, but you would have went to a different timeline, or in fact, you never actually would have went back to the original timeline. You'd have went to the new timeline created by your actions in the other one.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
that
Hawking published a paper in
He-
the
he
mid
did.
2000s about this.
He
in which
did.
Basically
It's
said you cannot travel backwards in time.
No.
And he called it like the something protection, CTP something. Like that.
He says it's
Look
not.
at it.
He says backwards time travel is not necessarily physically impossible, but it's on this idea that, yeah, you can't go back and change something that's already happened in your timeline. But if you create another timeline or are able to access it, well, then anything is possible. And that could be even down to frequencies or dimensions where, because again, like, guys, we only have a very, very limited knowledge of what we're talking about. As humans, we only experience
That's one way of putting it.
a very, very small spectrum of what we can see here, and that's about it. We can't experience the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension. We don't know. So, that's what's very interesting about these theories, and particularly string theory or the multiverse theory, where it makes more sense than going back and, I don't know, killing your grandfather, or going back and killing Hitler, or whatever. Because this is like, yeah, okay, you might go back and do that, but it's not going to change your reality. It's going to create a different reality or have knock-on effects. If anyone played Red Alert 2, then they know that's the plot of Red Alert 2. You go back and kill Hitler. That's a great game.
That's the branching timeline theory. You can never get quite back. But to your point about frequencies and whatnot and how they can control the human body, I don't even think you have to go as sinister necessarily as like fascist regimes and totalitarian regimes. Even if you go back, I mean, there's instances of time travel in our earliest Sanskrit writings that we get from Hinduism and such. And some of the concepts with frequency that they believe in, if they've been able to match up, it's like funny, the rainbow's coming up again, but they were able to match up the chakra system colors with the colors of the rainbows. And they're also able to correlate scientifically, they're able to correlate a specific frequency for each color. So they believe that when you're doing meditation, when you're doing your yogic practices, that as you're ascending through the chakra system, as you're ascending through the different roots and on up, that you are in fact also raising the consciousness level by raising your frequency. And that's why when you see ascended masters, or you see Buddhist monks, Hindu monks, great Christian leaders, etc., that people just seem drawn to. They just seem to have this charisma that emanates from them. It's because they are literally vibrating at
a frequency. Yeah, you're literally you're literally hacking the matrix of reality, because at the end of the day, if everything works like a computer, like it gives another thing to the computer simulation theory, or that God is like a programmer, which Jim Elveridge does a very good book. I'd recommend that. And it's like, it's, if you have rules, they can be broken, and vibration hacking is one way to do it. FC popped in, many movies have been done about frequency as a method of travel, also power, hence the tinfoil hat brigade. Yes, the high thing is a big deal too, so yeah.
Well,
Fair.
if we look at the Matrix movie, for example, the red pill or the blue pill, which do you want to take? A lot of people now feel that they're getting red pilled, and it's probably to do with the fact that we have the pandemic now, and a lot of people are kind of saying, right, you motherfuckers are hiding things from us, so let us know. You know what I mean? It's like when we go back to the last episode, we talk about the UFOs and stuff like that. But in terms of, I was looking at some of the literature that you had up there with Einstein, not Einstein. Jesus, how I was thinking of Weinstein there, and I just went, hell no, don't put them in the same. Don't put them in the same category. So we go back to we go back to Einstein, and even some of the theories from a lot of the old philosophers, even Tesla, for example.
Yeah.
it kind of lends a lot of credibility to the fact that these guys back then were basically speaking their theory and speaking their mind and explaining it, and it was written, and we can, luckily enough, we still have access to that. But there's never been really anybody since that has come out and started making these claims, and that's kind of what can lend itself to the conspiracy theory itself, that the governments of the world are hiding stuff, in the sense that, right, we didn't just stop with Einstein and we didn't stop with Tesla. So why has there been like maybe an 80 to 100-year gap here, and we don't have these people coming out and explaining this to us?
Well, there
Because,
wasn't. There's two ways looking at it. Either one, it's suppressed, or two, it's put out with misinformation. And
well, it's
that's
suppressed, in my opinion, and that's where the conspiracy comes in.
what I'm
That's,
saying.
that's
But more interesting on suppression though.
yeah,
If you think about it, like we've gone through a bunch of theories there, some of which are absolutely crazy. One which was proven to be a hoax.
No,
Well,
no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
well,
I refuse to.
well, okay. But what I mean is, what makes more sense? Well, what I'm saying. Oh no,
What makes more sense is that in 2016, when he got the GOP nomination, that John Titor came back when lightning hit on Fifth Avenue on Trump Building, and he put himself inside of Trump's body, that we would not enter a next World War III, Darragh. Duh.
we'll get to the Trump theory, which is crazy, by the way. But I just want
I
to.
knew Titor. I had to mention it.
I just want to finish this up right.
that's the one I think is real. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I found photos that prove it. Apparently, I mean, I found them on the internet. It's got to be real.
Exactly. But on that point, right, what you're talking about, like in the space of 40 years, we had all these, the theory of relativity, the stuff that was happening with anti-grav technology, the bell that we talked about on the last show, we will kind of touch
Yeah,
on here, and
we
then
did.
stuff like the Philadelphia experiment, and then stuff vanishes. It wasn't that it vanished; it's just that it went underground, and then we've been dealing with a bunch of different disinformation ever since then. Yeah, the conspiracy is probably. There's probably some legitimacy to it, but I would say, and the obvious rule of thumb, if you looked into it, actual technology is 50 years ahead of our technology. And when you start digging in, yeah, that's probably true. Like,
Yeah, because one thing that somebody I actually had, and I have it written down here because I'd be at a miss if not mentioning it. A girl named Clara235 actually said one of the things that she was disappointed that we didn't get into, which kind of lends itself now to maybe get into, just real quickly and briefly, is that we mentioned, just like you said there, about UFOs in the last time, blah blah blah, and how it's some people think it's impossible. However, we're looking at a picture right there. Essentially, there's wormholes.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go next. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll let you kind of segue there because you're obviously on the verge of what Clara wanted to be brought up.
So right. So moving away from the fact that from the idea that there's an underground bunker building cars that can go back in time, right? There is a possibility, and this was, Stephen Hawking's brought this out, right, where you can use wormholes to travel through time.
Yep.
But the problem with that is you don't know where they go, so there's no control. So
you need to test on like a wino or a down and out and say, right, do you want to take a chance?
But you don't even know where he could go. That's the thing. Like with a wormhole, it's not just you go back in time. Yeah. You could go forward 600 years and end up in a different part of the galaxy, which is also and a good way to describe it. And this proves that time travel is possible, just not plausible yet as such. Like you're not able to control it. We have no real way to control it as such. But just get a sheet of paper, and it kind of works where you can take two ends of the sheet of paper and fold them up and create it. And that way, because the shortest distance through anything is a straight line, and this is a straight line through big chunks of the galaxy or the fabric of space. So like this seems like something that could be worked on and developed, but we haven't got the. Well, I don't know.
There we go. She just sent me another text. What it was that we missed out was on the fact, and this is really, really, really good point. That if you look at when Roswell happened, this is obviously what we didn't touch on, and in fairness to us, we weren't to know, but we will now for you. So Roswell was obviously a thing, but they were saying if you look at how quickly technology sped up over the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s to 90s.
Definitely.
It's like we've almost been drip fed
Yeah.
technology.
That's more realistic. That's more realistic, and that makes sense. But
Yeah.
like on this point, FC popped in. Imagine folding a piece of paper with 2 pencil marks drawn on it, representing 2 points in time. Exactly, that's how you do it. But like
That's it, FC. That's exactly it. Yeah.
what you need to do is you need to have a way to kind of warp space and be able to go through it. And it basically through light speed. It's what you've seen in Star Trek or even Star Wars to a lesser extent, where you get from point A to point B. But the computing power for that is unbelievable, like literally. So,
Yeah,
but
what
yeah,
level of civilization do you have to be that harness that kind of power?
I don't
I
know.
always forget how they go. I know there's types 1, 2, and 3.
I don't
can't
know.
remember if we're
I think you have to be type 1 to discover warp travel as such.
Because then you can literally control the power of an entire galaxy.
Yeah. And effectively that's what we would have to do to use this, because look, you could all fly up in the morning. Well, not in the morning, but you could all fly up and go to find a black hole, and then there you go, you time traveled, but you don't know what's going to happen after that. So until we manage to manipulate that, that's going to off the table as such. But getting back,
because I'd much rather take a red pill or a blue pill in that case rather than flying into a fucking black hole. You know what I mean?
I have to say though,
Interstellar, I'm not sure how it works out. I'm kind of worried.
Yeah,
Dave, I think you would definitely put yourself forward for that. No.
There's not much in life that I say no to at this point.
But
I don't know if my appearance on that show bears the fruit, but yeah.
But getting back to the drip fed technology stuff, like on the screen, this is what the bell looked like, right? And stuff like this. This is crazy anti-grav technology. This all happened.
What the bell looked like.
Yeah,
that's all we know.
That's all we know.
We've never seen it. We've only seen mock-ups. How dare you show me concept art?
Well, still, for the point anyway. We had this stuff. We had the invention of the A-bomb. We had, all this kind of stuff just happen. And then Roswell, all of a sudden, we go from very little to a lot. Yeah, and like within 40 years, we have the greatest invention of humanity being the internet, which is how we're coming to you now. We have smartphones, we have communications, which is unbelievable, medicine, vehicles, all the stuff. So yeah, like we're all fed this. Where did this all come from? That's what's more interesting. It's like, was this retrofitted to be able to find it, and what else was there, and what else are they working on? And Dave, you talked about it last time that you think retrofitting has some problems.
Has some problems?
Mm.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it comes from channeling, to be honest with you. I mean, even when we talked Tesla and we asked him, hey, where'd you get your knowledge? He said, well, not from my head. He said, I found this frequency that let me tap into what the aliens were talking about, and I just did what they were talking about. Now, I don't know what you want to call those aliens. Aliens, masters, whatever, seem to show up time and time throughout history and give us a bit of a catapult forward in technology. Is it possible that there's groups that hold on to this technology and choose when to let out concepts to the general public, knowing that there's two options? This could either be used for good, or this could be taken by some people and used for evil. And when do we take the risk to, dare I say the word, disclose this knowledge? And I think that's what we see, is that there's certain people like your Einsteins who talked about it, Tesla who definitely talked about it, you can go back to the 1800s, etc., who all believed there was some sort of ethereal essence that existed in the cosmos that they could tap into and gain knowledge in a way that other people couldn't. And until we have Elon Musk on this show, I don't know if there's anybody doing it today.
Well, what's interesting about it is, and FC popped in, proton studies have been shown, have been done on it and shown similar patterns, as you said, information to be sheltered or controlled for power. Most definitely. But what's interesting about what you said there, Dave, when we look back at mythology, for example, or even religion in some ways as well, when it gets to King Solomon, for example, he was able to build things with power and controlling demons, which is just unbelievable. What that could have been a case of that, obviously we will do a show on the Anunnaki eventually, but they're the big ones, the fallen angels or the Nephilim, all this kind of stuff, or even actual gods in mythology, like Roman mythology, for example, or Greek mythology. They gave gifts to humanity.
I'd like to do one on
You know, so
Atlantis or MK Ultra. I think MK Ultra. Well, you brought it up earlier,
yeah,
Darragh. I think we should throw that in the mix as well.
there's a lot of scope, and we'll touch on them. But like these are things that there's a lot of true lines to what we're talking about.
Great. So,
So-
Darragh, when you talk about that, when you talk about getting gifts from the gods or gifts from visitors that they speak of, and no, I'm not going ancient aliens with this.
No,
Who's
you don't have
say
to.
that these weren't gifts from time travelers.
Exactly.
That popped back in time and said, "Hey, here's some fire. Y'all don't know about it. Y'all won't remember me, but here you go."
Again, and
Can I ask you a question? Here's a theory that was put forth a while ago, and I bet both of you have heard this. It's one that I've been thinking about recently. Now, it's only a thought. It doesn't mean that I believe in this. However, the whole idea of the Sasquatch and you know, they're hidden and blah blah blah, and you've heard that maybe the Sasquatch maybe they were the inhabitants of the earth, and maybe we are the people from fucking, you know, somewhere else, from a different timeline, and
So
we took over their planet. You know, I mean, these are all theories, and that's the whole idea of it. You know what I mean?
well, that's the whole what's it, settler panspermia thing, where
Yeah.
you know humanity has already reached, and you know, actually, what's interesting about Atlantis and stuff like that as well, when you look at some of these underwater civilizations or civilizations that are way older than anyone even talks about. It's like, what happened here? Or even stuff on Mars where, you know, they're like, oh, there's been a civilization on Mars, and what happened? Well, maybe they nuked each other and then they all went to Earth. You know, it's like, that sounds crazy, but, you know, when you go down the rabbit hole, and there's also the lost time conspiracy where, you know, so there's a lot of ropes. I mean, we'll eventually touch on all these, but
We will.
it's I would say time travel is one that kind of encapsulates a lot of questions and throws up a lot of possibilities, you know, and it's one that fascinates us because, like, how many movies have we seen about time travel? You know, everyone loves it, and it's something that looks like we've been doing for a very long time, even from the beginning of storytelling. You know, as you said, Dave, that was a very good point. Who's to say that, you know, the gifts of Mercury wasn't just some lad who popped up and said, here's some gifts, go kill that thing over there, I'm gone home, you know?
Then they gave him a name, Freddy.
And yeah, I don't get, you know, that's it, because at the end of the day, like, people can only contextualize what they're seeing and what they experience in the knowledge and words of their time. So
that's a really good point, Darragh. Is that what it really all boils down to? Because human beings, as a whole, we what we see in front of us is what we believe. For example,
well,
pretty much, I'd say a good 75% of people don't like to question things. If you bring them something that doesn't fit with their ideology or their mindset, you know, i.e., a conspiracy theory of sorts. You know, we can pick any one of them. You know, oh, was 9/11 an inside job? Oh, how dare you say that? Jesus Christ, why would you say something like that, you evil person? You know, so we're kind of almost. Is it the case that we're programmed to kind of just believe what we see?
I'll tell you what I'll tell you what it is. It's in Ireland anyway, or just in general, the education system, the way we're taught, and I learned this out when I went to college. And actually, no, when I was marking papers in college for undergrads, you would read an essay from an undergrad essay, and it would be like an A1 level essay for history, but it would be worthless. Kids
to
are
all of our American listeners, by the way, Darragh's not talking about a Mexican gangster. He's talking about.
I'm talking about grading systems. So like A1 would be, well, back before, I think it calls something else now, but it would be like top level, like 100% kind of stuff, you know. But you would be looking through it, and it wouldn't even pass. And the reason why is because it's just regurgitation. And a lot of people are just taught, right, particularly up until you go to college, you know, to do stuff, you're taught, hey, learn these facts, these are the facts, don't question the facts, or else you want it wrong. And even when you do go to college, there's, you know, a lot of political milieu or whatever, where it's like you have to actually pop in this exact way of thinking, or else you're going to fail. But yeah, but one of the main things about when you go further than that again, and you're actually allowed research, that's when you're allowed to dig in a little bit deeper. Yeah. And that's when you actually start cracking stuff open. But again, the time, effort, And people haven't got time to do that crap, so they're not going to. So it's just safer to be like, right, this is my reality, this is what I believe in. Let's just stay. And then if someone attacks it, well, you've built your whole reputation stake on it, so it's going to be bad. And that's why they fight, because you're literally attacking their sense. And you can't blame people for that. It's exactly the way people are taught up to be.
No, exactly. And Dave, I'm sure you'll agree with me here. Like, we actually done a study back in wrestling training a long time ago. We were saying, like, if you look at people's attention span over the last, say, 15 years, it's just gone down, just completely down. And that's purely because all people want to do. And listen, again, this isn't, attacking people.
No, definitely not.
I'm guilty of it myself. We look at a computer, we look at our screen, regardless of what you're looking for. The first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning is to see, have you got any fucking notification from anybody on your phone? You know what I mean?
But one thing as well, Ian, we're social creatures.
Yes, exactly.
Fundamentally.
Exactly.
So it's a lot.
We're not meant to be social in that way.
No.
We're meant to be social in an interpersonal way, for
But,
sure,
exactly.
like actually interacting.
But here's
one of the things that bothers me on I'm just going to hit Ian's point super quick, is when you talk about this stuff, I think we talk about the dipping decline in attention span. I mean, I remember when I used to have juggling videos every 3 minutes and people would watch the whole thing and give me, now it's got to be, a 10-second, 15-second Instagram video for people to notice. I see personally the attention span goes down, and then I watch my little cousins around the table flipping through Snapchat, flipping through Instagram, and even people who created these programs have come out and admitted, hey, basically it's no different than a heroin. You're just getting a little dopamine drip every time you see a little like from somebody else. So
but not only that.
Come back to our program.
Not only that, though, that's been weaponized in the whole question thing, and we will get back to this in a second. It comes back to the whole question thing. If you are ostracized from a sensor, you're not getting a dopamine hit, you're going to control what you're saying, you're going to control what you're talking about, because you don't want to be uttered. And that's one thing that it's a combination of, one, the education system doesn't teach you to think, and also when you do think, people get upset by it because you're like, hey, this goes against what I've been led to believe. And look, some conspiracy theories became history. So, but again, it is what it is. And look, Galileo was not Galileo.
Copernicus?
Not Copernicus. The other guy, Giordano Bruno. Giordano Bruno was burned for saying that the Earth doesn't, the sun doesn't revolve around the Earth. And then they apologized 200 years later, and they built a statue in Rome for him. It's like, yeah, there you go. He was right, but he's burned alive. So it's just
that
like,
totally makes up.
Yeah.
Like the first doctor who suggested, hey, I think maybe doctors should wash their hands before surgeries. I think there's these little things that we can't really see. They're invisible, that live on our skin. They can get in, and that's what causes infections. Verdict? They sent the guy to a mental asylum for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So that's why it's one thing. Sorry, before you pop in, that's why one thing when we're talking about these theories, we don't necessarily believe everything in it, but we want to present them in such a way that you guys get to hear new things
and ask questions.
Except for these Irish folks, they totally believe in the Giant's Causeway. Don't let them fool you.
Fair. Fair. Well, look, what I will say, Dave, is don't mess with a fairy fort.
Listen,
bad things will happen. Bad things will happen. That's true. That's true.
I'll say this to any American listener. Yeah, don't go to a fairy fort. Don't go to a fairy tree.
Yeah, don't go near them. Seriously, bad things will happen.
Fairy tree, especially. Whatever you're going to ring for it, go to a fairy tree. There's one in Glendalough. In Ireland. Do not go to them and don't mess about.
No, see, here's the thing, and we probably will do a one on Irish mythology. I'd love that, honestly. And Irish, so that's fantastic. Honestly, anyone who listens to my band or knows me obviously knows that. But
yeah, I know that now. I know that.
yeah. So that's something we'll put a pin in and come back to it. But look,
for sure.
So getting back on topic, here's some things, right? Some time travel stuff. So before we get to the absolute really fun, crazy one. I was
interested in looking at Chaplin there. That was a really interesting one there.
So here's some pictures that have obviously gone through the melee. There's obviously the Keanu Reeves through time. There's the Jay-Z through time. There's all these weird ones that like people look like them. To that, look, here's the thing. On the Vatican wall, in the Raphael rooms, there's a guy that looks exactly like Sylvester Stallone. He looks exactly like him. So
The hipster one there is purely just Photoshop, though. It's got to be.
I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah, well, it says it's been photoshopped, but then other people say it's
but he's wearing shades there. He's either been on some adrenochrome or he's been on some sort of weird drug, and he's like, I'm hiding my eyeballs here. So if he's on adrenochrome, he's in with the Clintons, my favorite people, as you all know. Don't worry. Only kill me. Don't kill Dave or Darragh. Don't worry.
Yes,
see, I've got your back, guys.
Will help,
That's-
I'm sure. There's
You what?
called guilt by association. I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, I know you're not, brother.
But here's the one, right?
This is how Hulk Hogan banned me on Twitter. This is that guy.
Well, look, FC popped in and said that this was around before Photoshop, and it was 1941 is when this popped out.
Okay, so fair enough. And
Right.
this is why I said at the start of the show, I don't have a lot of experience in this. So I'm interested then with this one, because to me, obviously, again, the way my mind has been trained, I'm already programmed to debunk that photo before it can be even explained to me.
Well,
right?
see,
So
this is the thing. This is just weird stuff. There are objects lost out of time, right? Another,
yeah.
this one, the time travel one, the Charlie Chaplin one, she's holding something that looks like a phone. It actually, they had a device in the 20s that kind of like you plug into your ear and you'd be able to hear a little bit better. So that one, we can remove that one 100%. It's not a phone. It just is what it is.
So, well, he looks like he's wearing a Wu-Tang t-shirt anyway, and like a nice little hippie cardigan. So
Yeah, he's very
modern.
very modern.
Yeah.
But there are some weird stuff, and they're not listed here, right? But there's a few ones that you guys can Google it. There's
That's super creepy now that I'm looking at it, guys.
yeah, it's weird. But there's some stuff on even hieroglyphic walls where it looks like a flying machine. There's one in ancient Greece where a girl is looking like she's typing on a laptop.
Yeah.
You know, some people say that's a jewelry box. But then there's other stuff like watches randomly found in tombs that shouldn't be there. There's stuff like flash frozen in stone from thousands of years ago. There's so much weird stuff out there that cannot be explained. That's just left. Where I'm like, you know what? Maybe someone did actually get there.
Yeah, because I'm looking at this, the
What about,
Montreal
like, the,
Maroons.
yes,
I know that team.
Barium device. That you pronounce it Darragh. You're better at that than I am.
Sorry, Dave. What was that?
That device they found on the shipwreck, anti-thacarium. Sorry, audio listeners. I'm very entertaining.
Is this the clock? This is the clock. Yeah.
Like, a ridiculous number of gears, and they can't figure out how they could have made it during that time.
Now I've actually seen that. That's in the Museum of Athens.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's cool. Yeah. Basically, for anyone who doesn't know, there was this. Basically, what they call it, the water clock, but it's not really. It has all these gears, and it was. It looks like something from the 16th century, around the time of Leonardo da Vinci. Looks like something he designed, but they can't replicate it and they can't explain it. There's no other technology around that time that would match it. So,
So obviously something broke off of somebody's time machine and fell in the water, and then we discovered it.
potentially, here's another one
Why
though.
not?
Well, here's one for you guys: Stargates.
Very good. Yeah, very, very good point.
Now-
SG1 all the way.
Not even SG. Well, but actual Stargates. These are things that apparently do exist, and I use that with quotations. But there's some weird stuff. There's some.
They exist there. You
Cover
just
in your
have to
ass
take the
there,
right
Darragh.
things
Well,
out of it.
okay, there's some weird stuff, right? When the invasion of Iraq happened, apparently the museum had some amazing things. And the first thing that happened was they went in and raided the museum.
Oh, and not only did they raid
Why?
those kind of things, they also raided all of the
Historical
cuneiform texts.
yeah.
Like, what,
So,
1 million or something absurd. Like,
like cuneiform texts fascinate me. I love Middle Eastern history. It's fascinating, but
Yeah, me too.
But it's fascinating because it's so obscure, and a lot of stuff was kept away because of different regimes and stuff. But yeah, like that's historical fact. When the US went in, that's the first thing they went for.
and also
why?
the first thing we promised we would not do.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, we're trying to cover up for somebody
Yeah.
that went back in time. We've got to get their name out of the records.
But here's the thing.
Don't
Apparently,
fight with me.
but
Go full time travel. It's
go-
not too late.
but apparently in Iraq, Saddam, there is rumors that he had a Stargate. So, what do you guys think? Like, I've seen evidence that would suggest that it's a very good story, and I'd love to see it as like a movie. But it's weird. Like, I'm not saying that this is a thing, but it's the fact that that's what they went for first is like, it brings up
I'm
questions.
just imagining it as a movie, and the U.S. troops are coming in. And you just see like that cartoon Saddam from South Park with the Stargate just shoveling WMDs into it. Like, we gotta get them out of this dimension. They're coming.
But yeah, it's just like, I don't know, guys. It's stuff like that brings up questions, and even if it was a case of this is
Good
all
question.
BS, yeah, and it's just, you know, and it's one of those things that when we look at Sumerian mythology as well, there's a lot of weird question marks that can't be explained. Like, even to go back to the technology, you talked about the technology thing, the Sumerian jump, for example, right? When it comes to that, right? When it comes to that point, we went from being in huts to having Sumerian level technology and architecture. Literally out of nowhere, it just happened. And no one has been able to explain how it happened. And then everything from there went down. So Egyptian, Greek, Roman, Hellenistic, all that kind of stuff. Literally, it just happened overnight. And it was in this period of time, this part of the world, where stargates and magic was all a thing. What if someone just showed up and was a time traveler, or what if you know,
Why
you know,
not? I mean, we'll
or an
talk about
alien
it,
or whatever?
yeah.
This is
You
it,
know what,
you know.
guys?
So
I think for one of these shows, and I'm definitely going to put a lot of work into this to try and make it happen. So anyone that's listening, don't hold me to this, but I'm usually, my success rate at getting people that I want, as you know, Darragh, is pretty good.
it's pretty good. Yeah.
Wow, somebody's changing the frequencies to control people.
Oh, here's one for you. FC popped in. What about the astronaut on the pillar of Salamanca Cathedral Church? Filmed in it was finished in 1800s. Yeah.
Oh, I've seen that one. Yeah.
That is weird. That is weird. There's no way to explain it. It's literally in stone. So it's like they didn't just put it in there. You know?
And that's
was an astronaut, right? Maybe it was just an interpretation of his travel.
Maybe it could have been. But again, like, here's the thing, right? If we are, just say time travel isn't possible now, right? There's no way we would know. And this is one thing that John Titor touched on. Is like, why don't time travelers? Why don't we have any evidence for them? It's like, well, what's the point in helping you because you're not in my world? You're not in my timeline. It's like he used it as, do you help every homeless person you see on the street? You know, that's the way he described it. And that would.
Do you buy into the concept that if a time traveling machine does get invented, that you cannot travel back in time before said time machine was created?
Well, I wouldn't say so. It depends. Like, time is all timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff, right? There's a Doctor Who reference for everyone. And that would, to be fair, it's like, I don't know.
Is that a cop-out? Like,
I don't know.
This is why we don't know them, because it hasn't been invented yet?
Well, if you're going by that movie, Primer, obviously you can't. You can only go back to when that machine was there. But I don't know. Like, this is the point where science and magic kind of hit together, right? So I suppose let's just say, if we were to invent a crew time machine, I would say the first step would be you can only go back to when that time machine was invented, and then technology would grow and grow and grow, and over a certain period of time, you'd probably be able to go back.
Well, I'm not driving it anyway. I'm just saying that thing that you're thinking of doing. I'm a passenger. Fuck that shit.
That's fair. That's fair. Here's one that I wanted to bring up, right? And this is my favorite time travel conspiracy. Before we get to your, exactly like Looper, very similar theory. You close the loops.
I was going to say though, what about
let's spend it on yours, Darragh, instead.
What about getting David Icke on the show?
I'd say, look, there's so many interesting people that I want to get on. You know,
well, David Icke, I think, would be a great one to get on this, purely for the fact that he mentions a lot of stuff actually that Dave mentions in terms of, you know, because Dave, you did put a lot of context.
I'm replaceable. Are you hearing this? Hey guys, end of the second podcast. B2I did.
No, two Daves.
You're out.
You Americans are so fragile.
Guys, here's one I want to...
yeah, we're fragile. Don't go near our fairy tree. But yeah, we're the fragile.
Hey, Dave, listen, you can go near the fairy tree, but it will not go well for you. I'm just saying. That's a warning, buddy.
Don't pay the ferryman. Don't pay the ferryman.
But here's the thing, right?
Fairies. I don't know. I was going to say, Derek, we don't even need to get to mine. We can focus on yours as last. I think something that just popped in my head, though, that we're learning is we're starting out with these very broad topics. And I think once we get several shows in, you may see us just spending an entire episode on a particular subsection of a topic. That's what I'm noticing really quickly. We have a lot to say.
We do.
Segue. I think segueing though is a part of podcasting, because if you look at any great successful podcast, I mean, for a lot of my listeners, some of their favorite podcasts are the likes of, like we mentioned earlier, the Jericho podcast or Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast, and you notice that they do tend to segue quite a lot. You know what I mean? And that's why people have to bear with us, because we go on a journey and we just end up going where we go, and that's kind of what makes the conversation good too.
And here's what I'd say: look, if there are anything that you guys like in it that you want us to keep going, email us. nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com, and go, hey, I want to show on this, or put a comment underneath the video and be like, hey, I want to show on this, please talk more about this. We're painting with broad strokes because we have a lot to say about certain things, but we also want to keep some sort of focus. So yeah, look, it's your show. Let us know what you want, and the only way to do that, well, there's loads of ways to do it, but the best way to do it is just leave a comment.
Well, that's it. And on social media, even, like, if you want to email, I run the Darragh obviously is the master of these ceremonies, but I'm always active on social media.
Oh, definitely, a Facebook page as well. Yeah,
you'll always get like a response from me on Facebook, on Twitter, or on Instagram. So if you want, if you have an idea or anything like that, just hit us up, because we are three dudes that just pretty much get along really well, and we just like to talk about this kind of stuff, and that's primarily where this came from. And
exactly,
we're just glad that you are listening, to be honest.
And look, it's still early days yet. But yeah, so just excuse the segues, but the segues will become other shows, and that's just what's going to happen. But look, we're closely coming to time, so before we hit time,
we got to finish on Donald Trump.
We got to finish on Trump, but before we finish on Trump, I want to talk about the coronavirus, because this is a fraud. This is a fake. This has been proven to be a fraud. The guy who said it literally said it was fake. But it's one of the most interesting fakes ever, right? So basically, this priest, I wanted to buy the book, but the book's like €150, and I'm not doing that. So I really don't want to buy the book. There it is. There, Father Emeti's coronavirus. If anyone knows where I can get that for cheap or wants to buy it for me, let me know.
I'll have a scan for you.
Oh, brilliant. Cheers, man. Yeah, but look, so basically what happened was he came out and said, I've created this television, basically, that allows you to look into the past. And he alleged that he saw the crucifixion of Christ. He saw a performance of a lost play in Rome by Thyestes. Of Thyestes by Ennis. And then he saw loads of other things, but then eventually he said it was all a fake. And this is apparently what he said Jesus looked like. Interesting about this one is it does have a lot of the hallmarks of a cool little story. Sadly, it's a false. It's not legit, right? But
true.
Look, I wish it was. I really wish it was. But what's funny about it is the commitment to this. This priest actually went in and brought back segments from this lost play and said, look, it's real. And apparently the text actually was pretty legit. And then he said he watched Cicero speak and the Latin was pretty good. But then again, he's a priest, so obviously it's going to be good. So it's just like, there you go. But listen,
I was going to say, it's probably, it doesn't really lend too much weight, the fact that he's a priest.
Well, with Latin anyway, their church Latin's pretty good. But what I would say is,
telling me priests can't be trusted, Darragh?
Yeah, 95%.
Right now, guys, I've already talked about that and got us demonetized. So let's go full hog.
I'm saying nothing.
Did we really? That's
listen.
I love this platform.
Donald Trump, time travel conspiracy. Now I heard his son, Barron Trump, apparently is the time traveler.
Here we go. Here's the one.
They traveled together,
They traveled together. So, okay, please explain this to me, because I didn't put this on the docket. You guys did. So explain it to me. There's Barron Trump. Apparently, he's the time traveler, and he's in this sort of text.
It's like Marty and Doc. You know what I mean?
So basically, look, this story comes from, it's a pamphlet and children's books from the late 19th century, so 1890 and 1896, respectively. And then it was published as a proper book in 1898. Lockwood published first book, the Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and his wonderful dog Bolter.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think
so here we go.
Dave will be the man to give context on this. I will say that the only experience that I've had with this Trump being a time traveler deal is to do with some of the QAnon stuff that's going around YouTube, and that he's going to come back in 2020.
He does really look like him, though.
It is
so much.
It's kind of weird. And
it is weird. So, yeah, put some context on this for me and some people that I know, please, guys.
Right.
I'm at a loss as well.
So these are from 4chan here, Dave. So speak to this, because I think this was your inclusion.
Okay.
Well, the very, very important thing you have to understand that kind of sets the stage for this story is we all know about Nikola Tesla. We mentioned him a couple times. One of the things he was supposedly working on was time travel at the time of his death. When he did die, the FBI and the Office of like Alien Intelligence or something, not those kind of aliens that are real, the kind that come in illegally, which I guess are also real, but you know what I mean. So they came in, they collected all of his documents. If you watch Expedition Unknown, they still haven't found all the documents. And they took all these crates to a lab in MIT where they were set about the task of go through this. If there's anything in here, if there is death ray stuff, blah, 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 that can help us, let us know. Because this is, 1943, we're talking, World War II. Some crazy things were going on. Tesla was getting spied on by the U.S. He was getting spied on by the Russians. He was trying to sell his, people always say death ray, but really it was an anti-war device to everybody. Well, here's where the Trump factor comes in, which this is true. There's nothing conspiratorial about this. It's 100% true. John Trump worked at MIT and was given Tesla's papers and told, you're the guy that's going to go through these. Now, we have two possibilities that we can conclude. One is that this is Donald Trump, the current U.S. president's uncle I'm talking about. We can believe that John Trump was truthful when he said that there was nothing in here that wasn't anything above being self-promotion. There's nothing substantial in here that I can give you guys. Or we can believe that John Trump came across this time travel information schematics, decided I'm not going to turn these over to the government. I'm going to ferry these away and keep them in my family. And then lo and behold, he dies in 1985. But who's up and rising and thriving? We have this peculiar Donald John Trump character who will eventually go on to become the president of the United States. And we could get into
want to know about WrestleMania too.
Yeah.
Throw that in.
And we get into all the little nitty-gritty details. I mean, honestly, we could spend a whole show.
I'm just reading this now, and I'm like, oh wow.
No,
Yeah.
I'm actually.
This seems very possible.
I gotta say, Dave.
Sorry,
I just want Dave to continue because Dave has got me right now.
Yeah, go Dave, go for it.
Sorry, buddy.
Well, I was just gonna say one of the big things is that there is a building. Barron Trump is the son, obviously, of Donald Trump, and let's get super technical. He's called Barron because of his title, but if he wants to time travel back in time, maybe they just weren't familiar with the first name Barron. So I'll give him that one. And there was this guy Don. Well, they called him a Don, which in that part of the country would have just been like a sir or like an overseer or whatnot. But there was this Don that traveled with him. But there's a couple things that stood out. One, there was a building on Fifth Avenue, which comes into play in 1900, or the last president. And I'm just going to read this straight from Ebaum's World. This is just too amazing, because think about this in terms of what's happening in the world today. This was written in, right around 1900. The final novel in the series begins with a scene of New York City in chaos, out of chaos order, right? That's what it's called. It's early November, and a hugely unpopular outsider candidate has just won the election for presidency. Slightly familiar? Slightly familiar. Yeah. Police officers are in the streets trying to calm the growing rioters as mobs of vast size are organizing under the lead of anarchists and socialists and threaten to plunder and despoil the houses of the rich who have wronged and oppressed them for so many years.
Wow.
I know. The Fifth Avenue Hotel will be the first to feel the fury of the mob.
No way. Yeah, what is going on?
What is happening right now?
Trump Tower stands, and those anarchists and socialists are present-day enemies of Donald Trump. Did Donald Trump go back in time to save us from a Clinton presidency and thus essentially give up his life and freedom, knowing the attacks that would come his way? And he made sure his story got told in a time outside of space and time?
And not only that,
But I love it.
but it's also that he could have been
I'm in. I'm sold.
So this
Why
links up.
not?
This links up everything here. It says that he's John Titor, and he
Yep.
He's oh, this is insane.
Well, without getting
This
too
is insane.
political, guys. Without getting too political,
No, and this has nothing to do with the politics.
Yeah.
It even
you're a bad guy.
this
We're
even
just talking-
this
That's
even
what I'm saying.
this even
Without
covers
getting-
meme magic and everything. Keck
Well, look,
and
without getting too
yeah.
political, guys, like if you really think about it, if you look at pretty much the run that Donald Trump has had, a lot of people that I talk to are Trump supporters. A lot of people that I talk to are not Trump supporters, and they're Americans as well, Dave.
Wow.
And one of the main points that always comes up is he has literally done everything to avoid a war so
Mhm.
far. And you know,
I mean, right now in America today, there are crazy riots happening all
Yeah.
over the place. It's not
Yeah.
something that's gone out of fashion. And Derek, to
Yeah.
your point,
Oh,
we're
I
not gonna be able to cover.
I can't believe this. This is
It's- yeah.
FC. We will absolutely put a link in the description for this. This is
Go ahead.
unbelievable.
You
Go ahead,
Unbelievable.
Dave, you were going to say
cool.
something there. I was interested in hearing what you were going to say there.
Sorry, Dave. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I can't even get into the whole meme magic thing just because of time. It's not worth it for y'all. But I will say this: you got to read the articles. We'll post some connections. We'll post some things under the video, and once you do read that, you'll get this reference.
Go back up to
I
that
have,
picture of Hillary there.
Yeah, I have a pet frog, and his name is Pepe. True story.
Well, here's one, right?
Can you go back up to that picture of Hillary that was there, Dave?
Well, beforehand, here's one that's crazy, right? So, if he time travel woke up Keck. Keck is using chrono radiation, and Keck is actually the Egyptian god of chaos.
Yes.
Wow!
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow!
Yeah. And look,
That's
look at that
insane.
little theme.
Before we
insane.
do,
On the thing, does that hieroglyphic not look
right
like
there?
a person in front of a computer
Yeah.
typing out strings of code or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Playing Space Invaders.
that's
I don't know.
crazy, actually. Yeah. Okay. Before we go, Dave or Darragh, can you bring it back up? Keep that there. So I want everyone that's sitting at home, yeah, to remember this person here on the left, smiling like a lunatic, could have been your president.
But thanks to time travel, she's not, right?
Well, here's
She's
one,
not
right?
gonna have to
This also.
Here's one actually. I wrote down 3 people that wish they could time travel, just for shits and giggles for the end. Okay, so I've got the Clintons. They definitely wish they could go back in time and try and not be caught for what they do. Obama, I have Obama there as well, and then I have
Not
Lloyd,
political at all, guys. Don't worry.
and I have Lloyden as well there. All those 3 people would love to go back.
Well,
and
well,
be
just I'm sorry, Ian, I'm not done with this. This is blowing
know,
my mind.
know,
Good, right?
I can't even.
Your excitement.
We
This is how I felt the first time I read this. I ran around to everybody. I tried reading the full story, and they were like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, you don't understand.
we could go 6 years with this, and we won't. But oh my god, like this ties up the Mandela effect. So this explains so much. It's so crazy.
Guys, I just had an idea. This is a perfect way to keep this show for the fans, okay? But to continue this on, let's get this on an episode of Dynamo's Dozen next week, and we'll continue this and look into this.
Just this theory by itself.
Just this theory.
Yeah,
the
we
3
can
of
do
us.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
I know way too much.
Are you in?
Absolutely,
Are you in?
absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So,
Absolutely.
guys, that's a good one. And I'm not doing that as a promotion thing. Darragh knows that. We're all in
No,
this.
it's promotion. Tune in
Nerd
next
to Know
time.
Media and Dynamo's Dozen are pretty much in cahoots anyway. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's gonna go on the same platforms anyway. So.
It's all going to be on the same platform.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, actually, because this is absolutely intriguing stuff here for me personally as well.
Cannot believe this. This is this game changer. Absolute game
We
changer.
don't have a lot of time, so what we will do in closing is we're actually going to we're going to continue this. Maybe Darragh, we might be able to set it up in a video chat as well if people want to.
Oh, definitely. We'll stream it the same way. We'll do it the exact same way. Yeah. We'll do it the exact same way. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do that. That'll be Dynamo's Dozen's first actual video chat as well. So that'll be cool. So the 3 of us are actually going to go and look into this in depth.
So meme magic, pretty much everything. We're going to the Mandela effect, meme magic, Keck, how this all comes back around to Trump and this.
This could be a 4-hour podcast.
Oh, it's gonna be unbelievable. Clear schedules. Clear schedules.
Clear your schedules.
Exactly.
You're gonna be going like a good buddy of mine runs those conspiracy guys. He has like 4 hours all the time. Gordon Rochford. Well worth a cheap plug, by the way, guys.
Definitely.
Good
those
guy.
Those conspiracy guys are awesome. I'm a big fan.
Good guy, and he's wished us well on our journey as well. So check that out. But this one could be up there in terms of going into as long as they do, because this is just blowing my mind right now.
I can't believe this. So look, I did not expect this, Dave. Thanks for unearthing this.
Thank you, Dave.
Trust me, nothing's as mind-blowing as the day that those 5, how many, I can't remember how many are at the end of the post, but the day they got like quintuples or sextuples come up all in 7s. I don't know if it's in here yet with the Donald Trump will win post. Oh, mind blown. Keck was activated. It all sprung from there.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Really read this article.
Unbelievable. And look, what we will do in preparation for it, we'll pop the link in the chat. We'll get it ready to go in the description. We'll get it ready to go. Yeah, guys. So that's it. We're gonna have to call time on this, but we will be back to discuss this in very, very great detail now next week.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. We're gonna put a date aside, and we'll give you a definitive date, but it'll be midweek most likely.
Yeah. So before we go there, Ian, anything you want to plug?
Well, to be honest with you, not a lot to plug. Although, yeah, I do have that's a good point. I have a guy, Ryan Dawson, who is going to be on Dynamo Dozen next week, hopefully as well. Ryan Dawson is a guy that has, for anybody now that is infatuated with this Jeffrey Epstein documentary on Netflix, we have actually been in contact there for the last 2 weeks, and we were planning this. He has basically been investigating everything that Epstein has done for 13 years. So this is before it was even a cool thing to do. And we're going to get the full level of what Epstein, Maxwell, and supposedly some other people are involved in as well. And It's going to involve the Clintons. It's going to involve a lot of top echelon kind of people. But like I said, these are his opinions, and this is his research. So he just wants to speak out about it. And so that's pretty much what I want to plug on Dynamo Dozen. That's about it. I guess we want to plug as well. We have the 4 Podmen out now for all you wrestling fans. Darragh is a part of it as well. Our latest episode is still streaming on Spotify and any good, pretty much all of the good streaming services. We have the 4 Podmen, and that is all about Triple H. It was probably our best episode yet. Yep,
most definitely. It's much listened to.
Yeah, and then I just want to obviously plug Nerd to Know Media, because obviously that's somewhere now that has become a little bit of a stay over for me. So we're obviously going to be getting into business together, and I just want anybody that listens to my stuff and that listens to this show because of my stuff or whatever, please do check out everything on Nerd to Know Media. So much good stuff.
Awesome, man. Dave?
Yeah, absolutely, and like you were saying, keep your toenails posted to nerdtoknowmedia.com, because no matter where we end up, there's some things coming to the site that's going to always keep you connected with all of our shows across all of our platforms. Seems like we go through a redesign every 2 weeks or so. Just an amazing time to watch the site grow and flourish. You can find me if you're on YouTube right now. You can just look at my little name on the box there. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram, especially Dave Stevens. Hit me up. Got any questions? You like something I talked about? You're like, no one wants to hear that. I'll talk to you about it. I'll send you weird private messages. It'll be totally kosher. Don't worry about it.
Hell yeah.
So be sure to do that, and check out the Wrestling Rewind that Darragh and I host. Comes out every Monday live on YouTube and Twitch, and be on the radio Tuesday nights, and it'll hit all those good audio streaming services on Thursdays. It is the only wrestling podcast hosted by fans who don't hate wrestling.
That's the main thing.
You listening?
I can verify this.
And guys, from the 2 guys and myself, thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll be back with a lot more content. Nerd to Know Media. Talk to you then, guys. Bye-bye.
Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.